Humans are great at inventing technology and absolutely terrible at adopting it. You designed one of those Star Trek machines that can make food instantly, but you chose potato chips. You chose junk food because it's dopamine and because it sells. But you didn't choose something that's good for humanity. That's not what's driving you. Now that's what started this. But now you have all of this capital to return. When you go evaluate these things, you should not evaluate what they can do. You need to evaluate how they learn. What is the interface of the future? It's no interface. It's the lack of interface.
Yo, it's the future, don't hit the snooze. AI is here giving humans the boost. Team Humans rolling, brains in the game with Dan Turchin. Y'all remember the name. People reign in the mix, no stopping the flow. Better work, better life, yeah, we're ready to go. Robots and humans, a collab, you know. Okay, let's start the show.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening. Welcome to AI and the Future of Work. I'm your host, Dan Turchin, CEO of PeopleRain, the AI platform for IT and HR employee service. If you haven't yet, join our community by clicking the link to our weekly newsletter. And as you know, it is your obligation as a member of Team Human to share this with just one friend. Thanks for being a part of our more than 1 million loyal listeners. We appreciate your loyalty and you making AI and the future of work a priority. Let's open the listener mailbag. Here's one from Leor in Atlanta, whose favorite episode is number 212 with Steve Truitt, award-winning science fiction author and futurist, on saving humanity and preventing AI from ruining us. Of course, you'll get a link to that in the show notes. And here's today's fun fact. It comes to you from Rafael Rashid, who writes at theguardian.com about South Korea's world-first AI laws and how they face pushback amid the country's bid to become a leading tech power. The South Korean Act will force companies providing AI services to add invisible digital watermarks for clearly artificial outputs, such as cartoons or artwork. It will force high-impact AI, including systems used for medical diagnoses, hiring, and loan approvals, to require operators to conduct risk assessments and document how those decisions are made. If a human makes the final decision, the system could fall outside the category. Third of the key components of this law, extremely powerful AI models will be required to provide safety reports, but the threshold is set so high that government officials acknowledge no models worldwide would currently meet it. Companies that violate the rules face fines of up to 30 million won, or about $20,000. But the government has promised a grace period of at least a year before penalties are imposed. Of course, we'll link to the full article in today's show notes. My commentary on this South Korean proposed law. Watermarking AI-generated content is expensive to implement, but it should be universally demanded by all of us, by AI users, and voluntarily implemented by AI vendors. Without it, we should rightfully assume all media is AI-generated or AI-influenced. Trust is a bedrock principle on which civil society is built. Watermarking is required for AI to be deemed trustworthy and really shouldn't be a topic for debate or required to be legislated. The other elements of the South Korean Act, risk assessments for high-impact use cases, and model safety reports, are ambiguous, lazily drafted, if I may say so, and unenforceable. I applaud South Korean regulators for attempting to define and monitor AI guardrails, but this misstep is a further reminder that technology legislation can't come from bureaucrats. We should vote with our eyeballs and wallets as consumers. We should only patronize services that practice AI responsibly and force vendors to self-regulate. South Korea, while ahead of other countries in terms of government-led regulation, is pathetically behind at preventing AI from inflicting social, financial, and psychological harm. Of course, we'll continue to unpack that important topic. Now, shifting to this week's conversation. Robb Wilson is the CEO and co-founder of OneReach.ai, an agent building studio. Robb's a serial entrepreneur, having founded 4 tech companies, and he's also the co-owner of UX Magazine, which has a community of over 640,000 members. Robb was previously a creative executive at Time Warner. And fun fact, he received an Academy Award nomination for technical achievements. Robb's the author of 2 best-selling books, including Age of Invisible Machines, about designing for conversational AI, and developing self-driving companies with hyper-automation. Rob, it's my pleasure to welcome you to AI in the Future of Work. Let's get started by having you share a bit more about that illustrious background and how you got to where you are today.
Oh boy. Yeah, I was listening to that going, is that me? It doesn't feel like me. My background was definitely an interesting combination of design and technology, with technology being sort of underlying, my passion for design. So tools, I think back in the day, technology and design were not mutually exclusive. They were like the same thing. Your alchemy, was your secret, and then you paint, and it was a combination of both. Now we kind of separate them as you're an artist or you're a developer, scientist. Like, no, you can be both. And that's what I've sort of sought out to do. So that career is just an example of how I ping-ponged my career, but always loved technology, always tinkering. So that's what that is.
Talk about the intersection of UX and conversational AI. It's certainly collided very in a violent way very recently.
Yeah. Well, if you think about my job when I had a company that competed with IDEO and Frog to design and build. So of course I created a company that not only just designed, but also built what it designed. And if you sort of really got to the heart of most of my interactions when it was customer oriented, it was, can we create some experience so that customers don't call us? We're like, okay, let's try. Then we go look at the phones. How's that going? They're still calling us. Okay, let's try this. We'll make a mobile app. Look over the phones. They're still calling us. Calls are going up, but they're using the mobile app too. So then you have to dig into like why, as a scientist, you're like, why? Why do they keep calling? Is there an interface problem? They want to communicate conversationally. And so we realized that traditional interfaces that suit computers are not interfaces that suit humans. So we've had to learn their language, and now they're learning ours. So it couldn't be more profound for me. In fact, it's mostly UX. In fact, it's not decision making nearly as much as it's the interaction model that's changed.
So for decades, humans wrote software and it sucked. It sucked. It was
100%.
Right. The UX just notoriously of most software, certainly enterprise software, has been awful. And now all of a sudden we have software writing software. And I got to think that there's every reason to expect that it's going to suck even more, because the only thing worse at designing good UX than people is computers designing UX for people. Thoughts on where we're heading in terms of, UX maybe not getting better at a time when, we deserve more?
Oh boy, man, that's a lot to unpack, because what you're talking about is, so I have salespeople that will call me, and if they talk to a customer, like let's say it's the CTO of Patagonia, they'll call me and they'll be like, oh man, they're all excited. Like they get it. Yeah. And I want to unpack that for a second. Like, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? They get it. What do they get? And what does it look like to get it? I'm like trying to understand. What do they mean they get it? What is it? What is getting it? Is it just mean they agree with us? Is that what we're saying? They get it because they agree with us. So is everyone saying they get it when someone agrees with them? Or is there a getting it, right? And I think one example is, look, we can use AI to write the shitty software that we don't use, and now we can do it faster. And so you see these companies that are like, oh, are you adopting AI to build the new interface and the new software. No, I'm adopting AI to build the old shitty software. But now I can do it so much faster. I can get caught up on the backlog that I have. And you're like, okay, so let's talk about building some of the new software. And they're like, I don't have time. I'm like so busy implementing AI to build the old shitty software that I'm going to throw away in a year. But now I got all these boxes I'm checking. Like, look at all this productivity I'm achieving. So getting it is understanding that software's changed and it's time to build the software of tomorrow, today. And that's like one small, I guess, piece of the puzzle.
AI aside, you and I both talk about human first design.
Mm-hmm.
You built a career around it and you wrote books about it. If we set aside the kind of this technology conundrum, and we just think, back to kind of first principles, like what makes a great product that's human first?
Yeah.
What do you think are the principles of human first design?
It's so easy. If you look at what a human, let's say you look at a human experience, right? It is the existence of humans, of course, right? How do you have a human experience without a human? But then what's the inverse, right? What's the opposite? Well, no machines. So the more we have no machines, the more we'll have human interaction. And that's why I wrote the book and called it Invisible Machines, because we're not going to interfaces that are better designed. We're going to interfaces that are invisible, where we don't see them. We're going to technology not being a part of our lives, not being more a part of our lives, being a non-existent thing in our lives. Let's make it disappear, which then reveals the human interaction. It leaves us nothing else to do but interact in a human way because it's gone, right? So I almost wanted to write this little scene in a movie where the future is where little robots hide behind plants. And when we're not looking, they go clean something up and run away so that when we look, they're gone, They're like, oh. So there's little robots just making sure that everything's going the right way, but we don't see them. And we don't need to see them. And so what is the interface of the future? It's no interface. It's the lack of interface. So if you're building interfaces with AI, you're going to the past.
That movie will be better than Squid Games. I'm just going to call it right here on the podcast, right? I'll finance it, right? You tell me when you're ready. So I love the concept of the invisible machine, and I think that's a great way to describe what human first design is. In fact, I think the kind of current paradigm, like the blinking cursor on the screen and, the form and, fields and forms, and that's how, as you said, kind of the structure that computers need. But it's like the most dehumanizing way to interface with anything, right? It's exactly the opposite, of what humans would design. If you just ask them, how do you solve the problem? You mentioned in your previous slides, you kind of casually name dropped competing with IDEO and Frog, two of the most iconic design firms. Talk us through a product that you've designed that makes you most proud over the kind of arc of your career.
It's hard because most of those products I'm not proud of because they had regular interfaces and I had the customer, I couldn't design for them what made sense. I had to design what they wanted. So, we did projects like eBay, but I'd say the one I was most proud of was work on the Boeing 787 cockpit. We worked with Jeppesen, and if you're automating flying a complex aircraft like that, then you can certainly automate anything, right? And the interesting thing about that project is if you just go and Google the cockpit of 747 and 787, you're going to see that the challenge was hey, we have carbon fiber frame and bigger windows and less dashboard space and more automation. So we need more buttons and we have less wall space. Fix that, right? And so you see is these iPads, you see less buttons. And what ends up happening is you end up removing complexity, removing dashboards, And then you have this context. And since our part of it was the flight planning, right? That was the key. This was the context that the cockpit needed to know what options to show the pilot at any given time. This is what enabled fewer buttons. Is you don't need to see the landing gear if you're 30,000 feet in the air. So that's like what kicked it off for me. Was I sat in the simulator, never flown a 747 or any airplane for that matter, but within 10 minutes, I was trained to take off and land the thing. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like I just flew it was a simulator, but I just flew a 787. That's cool. And so I'd say that's probably what I'm most proud of. That's an
Nominated
achievement.
for an Academy Award, but that's like got to be the crowning achievement of your career. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. And like watching the inaugural flight in Seattle, and being invited to that because we were on the team. That's super cool. That was awesome.
Phenomenal. So you wrote the book Age of Invisible Machines a couple years back. I think it was published around September of 2022. Captain Obvious speaking, the world's changed a little bit since September 2022.
Oh, yeah.
You're starting again. What's maybe the chapter you would add to the book?
Oh my God. So I got technology. Like you read the book, talk to anybody who's read the book. I nailed technology. I was in it at the time. So I knew what was coming. So LLMs being commodities, like it's all in there, even down to 2027, like what's about to happen. Still in the first edition. We did a second edition where we just added more detail. But what I absolutely failed miserably at was predicting the human aspect of it and how they would adopt it. So like I would go back and say humans are great at inventing technology and absolutely terrible at adopting it. And no doubt, like I'm not blaming people necessarily because it's what I'm calling Igor Stravinsky problem, which is Fletch reference, where Fletch is playing this like airplane mechanic, and he walks in and they're like, hey, do you know what's wrong with this thing? And he's like, ball bearings, all ball bearings these days, right? And I feel like every AI expert is like Igor Stravinsky, like ball bearings, and Salesforce sells $5 billion worth of ball bearings to the army, right? And then they go to the engineers and they're like, hey, we got all these ball bearings. And they're like, I actually have to fix the plane. Like this thing actually has to fly. Like someone sold you ball bearings named Igor Stravinsky, which by the way was a fake name, because they didn't really take the time to understand that this is not a technology. This is a way of thinking. This is an ecosystem of tools. It's not one thing. It's not a new thing. It's an old thing that is just more intelligent and evolved. But the implications are profound because when you go evaluate these things, you should not evaluate what they can do. You need to evaluate how they learn. So we always look at software. It's like, show me what your software can do. Show me a demo of your software. But no one says like, show me how your software learns. Show me how it evolves, because now we have software that evolves itself. That when there's a bug, it's capable of fixing it right there on the fly. You don't need to send it back to the engineer as a ticket, have them fix it and put it in the next release. Like it can literally be fixed for you on the fly. And if there's a button missing in the interface that you wanted, you don't have to put it in the suggestion box. You could just add it right there. You can just go to ChatGPT and say, hey, give me a button that does this. And so what is the new interface? Like this is a whole different paradigm of thinking. So there's like two things are so simple. How does your system learn? Nobody asks that. Show me. And then the second big thing is if you can't automate your own company, you shouldn't be selling software to automate other people's companies. So don't show me a demo of what it can do. Show me how you use it. Show me how your company's automated, because why would we trust anyone who their company isn't fully automated using AI at this point? So you look at these like sort of rules of very simple and obvious ways to get it, right? Like, do you get it? And I'm confused. Why don't people get it? Just how they're adopting it has baffled me. And I would go back and rewrite all of that and say, here's what your tendency is going to be. You're going to believe Igor's. People are going to jump on the bandwagon that say ball bearings are the future. Put in AI agents. They're nothing. You can't, this is an ecosystem.
So let's say Sam Altman calls you today, kind of the quintessential resident in the echo chamber, and he says, hey Rob, my team built this perfect example of software, like it's the pinnacle of human achievement. 900 million people a week use it. It's got all these great things. It's super simple UI, like harkens back to like first version of Google. I don't think it could be any better than it is today. And Rob, the world-class designer, says what to Sam Altman?
He says, like, look, you designed, one of those like Star Trek machines that can make food like instantly, but you chose potato chips. Like, you chose junk food. And you chose junk food because it's dopamine and because it sells. But you didn't choose something that's good for humanity. That's not what's driving you. Now, that's what started this. But now you have all of this capital to return. And so you're selling potato chips, soda pop, and junk food instead of something that is forward thinking and saying, like, we can make potato chips that are healthy for you. It's just going to be more complicated for the end user, and they're going to have to lean in. But this idea that AI should be out of the box and simple, that's part of getting it too. Like, it's not. And when we talk to people that get it, what is the underlying core thing? They get that it's complicated now and they're willing to put the work in. They're not looking for some out of the box, easy push button answer, right? So what is eating healthy? Hard. What is eating junk and not caring? Easy. Are you a junk food company? Are you a health food company? And you're trapped into it because you have all this capital to return, and you know that dopamine makes money, not diets.
So Sam Altman ended up making the potato chip factory, or opiates for the masses, or whatever analogy you want to use. And ironic, given that the nonprofit that OpenAI started with had a mission of using AI to benefit humanity. So let's say instead Sam says, "Yep, you're right, Rob. Instead, we want to rethink how we expose AI to the world through the lens of we want it to cure cancer and end famine and eradicate war." How do you rethink? Like, what's your advice to Sam if he's like, "Yeah, I concede that we want to do better"?
I'd probably say don't do it because you're going to get fired. And I'd say, like, what I believe he's going to do, right? I believe he's going to do it while saying he's doing something else. So he's trying to balance it as best he can, given that society in general just doesn't necessarily, we don't have a structure for capitalizing this kind of deep investment and not making potato chips. So I think, honestly believe he's doing the best he can given his circumstance. But there's other companies like ours that don't have that situation, that can just focus. Like, we focus on healthcare, government, telco, like trying to move the needle on complex stuff, right? Like, really, really dig in and make a difference in a positive way. But we can afford that because we didn't have to spend $5 billion to train the LLM, which is a choice I made early on. I'm like, first of all, no one's going to give me $5 billion to train the LLM. So that was kind of an easy decision. But now it's up to us. What I don't get is the companies that aren't in that situation, that lean into the potato chips anyway, right? So you're like, there are other companies that have this choice, but are still like, oh wait, here's where the money's at. So that's OpenAI is like, an Anthropic. You can see like they went off to say, oh, I think naively like, oh, he's trying to balance this. We're going to be the company that doesn't need to balance it, and they go raise a bunch of money and go, oh, that's what was happening. This isn't as easy as we thought to just do the right thing.
As developers of UX user experiences that are wrapped around AI, we have an opportunity to embed our morals and our values. Not an opportunity, but it happens that we embed our morals and our values into the products that we design.
Yeah.
When you're coming up with new concepts for products, how do you think about that obligation that you're passing along your morals and values in the form of the experiences you pose?
So super simple for me. So complex for everybody else. Probably because I'm wrong. I don't know. But in our software today, we tend to automate the stupid little shit, right? Like password reset. And the decision making is in the machine. And it's compiled and it's IP and we can't see it, but we don't care because it's like how you brush your teeth. Like we're not that particular about how we change our passwords because that doesn't really drive the business, right? Core business value, as people call it, right? Like what are our core objectives as a company? It's not changing passwords and how we do that, unless you're Okta, right? So we let Okta do that. Now, as you move up this complexity, as you move up to bigger decisions that lay above that, just like us as humans, let's call them conscious decisions versus unconscious decisions. As we move through the organization to more conscious decisions, they become more critical decisions to the business and the impact. Now it is an imperative to see the decision making behind it. So we are moving to a place where even compiled software will not be okay. There won't be a company that won't require open source, won't require seeing the system prompt in the LLM. I need to know how you make the decision. I made this joke on LinkedIn. I don't know how many people got it, but it's like I used Copilot as my procurement bot, and now all it does is buy Microsoft products. Right? Like this one sentence in an LLM prompt that you can't see. So we're moving to a world of transparency where I don't even think compiled IP code will be acceptable to any business. They're like, and open source was tough because they said you could read it as like Twitter open source through algorithm, but then you go look at it, you're like, I can't read this. But AI can read it for you now. So you can ask it, like, how does this make decisions? And it can tell you. So now there is more practical value in seeing the code behind it. So I think it's the end of licensing and SaaS software and seats and all of this, not because companies won't want to buy pre-built decision-making software, but because they will mandate being able to see the decision criteria. And when they can expose that, they can replicate it with AI in a hot second. So what's your moat? Velocity, that's it. How fast do you put this stuff out?
That's a very elegant framework, and I wish more designers thought like you.
Today's episode is brought to you by my company, PeopleRain. As you hopefully know, PeopleRain is the AI platform that automates work. Tens of millions of employees around the world get back 4 to 6 hours per week because PeopleRain automates away the friction. Imagine a world where your teams never have to wait for technology upgrades or to have a human reset their password or get added to a distribution list or get help with payroll, PTO, or benefits. Inbox zero for the help desk, zero friction for employees. That's the future of work. That's PeopleRain. We're offering all members of Team Human, and hey, that's you, our listeners, an exclusive discount on PeopleRain just for being part of this amazing community. Get the discount code at peoplerain.io/podcast. That's PeopleRain, like the reign of a king or queen.io/podcast. Now back to this week's conversation.
Now flip the script. So now instead of Rob the designer, Rob the human using these products that other people create? What are your sensitivities, or what are the things that you look for that make you suspicious about using a product because of maybe some of the design decisions that were made?
When it comes to design specifically, design's a tough one. Like on one hand, I love design and I love designers and I love how they think. On the other hand, they're probably one of the core reasons for most of societal problems today, including global warming, right? Like designing problems that are not, designing, products that can't be recycled, that aren't circular, things that look good, but you throw away. We're always like aesthetic first and then reusability second. So the design community is like in a state of, in a sort of a hypocritical state where most designers, tend to be quite sympathetic to the planet and our situations. But they also design these crazy cool looking water bottles that you can't recycle.
So this conversation about human first design and kind of the limitations of current ways that we interact with technology makes it easy to say, oh, well, the future of human computer interaction is via voice. It's the most intuitive input mechanism. And therefore, we're all going to be wearing something that maybe looks like a badge or a pin or kind of a Star Trek kind of communicator. That hasn't worked famously. Humans aren't ready for it, or is there some other new interaction paradigm that we haven't stumbled upon yet that's different from anything we've seen?
It's so hard. Again, like I can get the tech right. The people thing is always going to surprise the living shit out of me. I'm like, wow, I never saw that coming. But let's just talk about chips in your brain for a second, right? And let's imagine that I put an Apple chip in your brain and you and I are sitting there having a conversation. At what point am I like, I don't want to talk to Siri. I want to talk to you. Like, why didn't you just leave your phone, put Siri on and walk away? Like, I don't think I want to talk to you anymore, because I want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to Siri. I don't care that you can browse the web in your head and rattle off facts to me. Like, I'm going to move on. I'm going to go to someone who doesn't have a chip in their brain. So I think when you think through this idea of augmenting ourselves, we're still looking through a productivity lens of our value is what we produce in the world, not how we connect. And you go, well, is that a good value? Like what we produce? Like, does that even matter? And is that just the Industrial Revolution? Like for all of humanity, is what we produce who we are, or is how we connect who we are? So maybe these things would make us more productive, but they're not going to enable us to connect better with other human beings, because I'm not talking to you. I'm staring at this stupid thing on your chest that's beeping at you and feeding jokes into your ear. So no, I don't think they're going to take off because they're not human.
So maybe the future of machines, it's so invisible that they don't exist, that they don't feed what we should value, which is human connection and promoting the value of humans navigating the world. That's a super unpopular opinion because we like potato chips. So how do you it is. Because I think AI is going to do an amazing job at connecting humans, facilitating human connection. And those are the tools that will be effective, because that's what we want. That's what will give us not just dopamine, but serotonin and all the other chemicals we need, right? So now it's like my AI set up a lunch between us two. It's not at the lunch. It just facilitated that connection. And it understood that we had common ground. It understood that we were both working on something that we were both passionate about, and that there was an opportunity to work together. That's the AI we're going to pay for. That's the AI we're going to lean into, because that's the AI that's going to give us full nutrition from a socializing standpoint. Potato chips is just dopamine. It's like drugs, right? It's not real
substance, right? It's not real connection, it's fake connection. But when we feel real connection, we do know it and we do appreciate it more. So I think we're just going to pay for the AI, or at least reward the AI that connects humans together versus the AI that substitutes human connection.
I hope that when you're back on the podcast and we're having another version of this conversation, we're celebrating the fact that more developers are thinking like you and I. But as much as I try to stay optimistic, it's hard to not appreciate that capitalism does not reward that behavior. And so this idea that, we'll build AI that knows when to turn itself off and hand over, add value, schedule the meeting in your example, and then turn off.
Yeah.
It's laughable.
Yeah.
I think we as a tech community have an obligation and an opportunity to change that, but the odds are against us because we're capitalists.
Yeah.
How do you think about that? I know it's kind of a dark place, but where do we go?
I don't think it is. So my mom was an uber hippie when I grew up. Like tofu was dessert in my house. Like I would go to a friend's house and their mom would be like, what can I get you for dinner? I'd be like, do you have Fruit Loops? Because I never got sugar at home. And I had a paper route. And when I got paid, when it was collection time, my sister and I would go to the store when my mom's there and just we would look at the weight of candy bars to be like, how much, like dollars to the weight of candy bars. Health food was really expensive. There were little tiny stores that no one bought from. And it was very unpopular. And all my friends thought I was crazy. And my mom was crazy because we ate stuff like tofu. Like, what's tofu? And echinacea and herbal tea and all of this stuff that we looked nuts for. And be like, oh, they're eating potato chips and Fruit Loops. But then cut to today. Everyone's a hippie. Like they're all like her. Like she's had to take it to another level, like 5G, oh my God, 5G is going to kill us all. Like, cause she can't, like everyone's drinking echinacea and herbal tea, and Whole Foods is like a major going concern now. So I do have hope. I think that as we change our tastes, it's not the industry that leads us, we lead it. And as we start leaning into realizing that there is social nutrition and that this matters, we're just in the potato chip Fruit Loop phase. But I do think in not very long, we're going to be out of this. And those companies that feed us that are going to be struggling how to stay relevant. They're going to be like, hey, Snapple, maybe we should look at that. And then there'll, of course, still be, cigarettes and Coca-Cola.
No, that is a somewhat satisfying answer. That if we as humans consuming these products decide that we prefer echinacea and tofu, I know that sounds silly, but to potato chips, let's just thought experiment, right? If we make that decision, you're right, then we can vote with our eyeballs and with our wallets that we want echinacea and tofu on the menu.
Yeah. And I think it's mimetic. Like it's not that everyone decided. It's that the people we look to, our influencers, like the actors, whoever we admired started eating tofu and drinking herbal tea, and then the rest of the world did. So it's not like the whole world has to wake up and educate themselves. It's just the people that influence us need to. Like you.
And you, Rob. I got to get you off the hot seat. And by the way, thank you for letting us completely throw out anything that we have planned and just have a human-to-human conversation. These are always the most enjoyable, genuinely. But one last question before I can let you off the hot seat. Sadly, I guess I'm trying not to editorialize too much, but we've evolved to being something beyond like Homo erectus. We started as primates, and now, we're kind of back to being hunched over with a phone in our hand and kind of, doom scrolling and, ignoring other humans. And I think you and I, as, I'm anointing you firmly a member of Team Human, think that there's a better future ahead. Mm-hmm. What's it going to take to make that shift? Like, what does it look like 10, 20, 50 years when, we're not shackled to technology? It's invisible, like you imply. What's got to happen in order for that to take place?
God, who the hell knows? But consequence usually is the thing. Like, why do we eat health food now? Because of the consequence of junk food that we're seeing. Like, at some point, it becomes undeniable that we're all obese and it's not comfortable, and that these were bad decisions. I know there's a lot of people predicting we're going to be obese and hoping that people will like heed the warning. And I always say, like, I used to think wisdom was like knowing a lot of shit. Now I think wisdom is people who can learn from other people's mistakes that don't need to go through years of mistakes, but you like tell them, hey, I tried this, and they're like, okay, I'll learn from your mistake. So I guess like wisdom, in that, by that definition, is what it will require. And the question is, does society as a whole have enough wisdom to say, like, let's not do that again. Let's not do the whole like junk food thing again.
Which is a good reminder that recall comes from machines, but wisdom comes from humans. And the reason is because machines are perfectly designed to replicate both human bias and human mistakes. And it takes good human judgment to decipher, when is the machine parroting back mistakes and when is it parroting back something worth listening to. But there is a small but growing number of voices like yours, Rob, who believe that the future is not more of a steady drip of technology dopamine hits. And I really do want to have you back. There's no more important conversation for us to be having, and I love the way you approach these things.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, this was fun. By the way, Rob, you and your mom are both now members of Team Human, so you got a 2 for 1.
Sweet.
Where can the audience learn more about you and the good work you're doing?
So I wrote a book, happened to be a bestseller, Visible Machines. You can buy that. OneReach.ai is where we actually implement, technology. We do focus on the tough problems and AI within the boundaries of like doing good. So, if you're looking for an easy button, don't bother. But if you're looking for something that works, give us a call.
Brilliant. Rob, thanks for hanging out. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, that is all the time we have for this week on AI and the future of work. As always, I'm your host, Dan Turchin from People Rain. And of course, we're back next week with another fascinating guest.
Yo, it's the end of the show, time to power it down. AI's the sis, but humans wear the crown. Team Human in the house, got the vibe so clever. Dan Turchin from People Rain, making us better. We learned about AI for humans. We're ready to conquer the future, that's all for now. See you next time.